The police report said the security cameras at the gas station stopped working at 2:17 a.m. But when they recovered the footage later, one camera was still recording, and it showed something walking inside the Converse store. Even though no one was there, the gas station at mile 42 on Highway 19 was the kind of place most drivers only stopped at when they had no other choice. It sat alone in the middle of dense woods, the nearest town nearly 20 miles away. At night, the highway went quiet, so quiet that you could hear the wind moving through the trees like something whispering in the dark. That night, Daniel Harris was working the late shift. Daniel was 29, tired most of the time, but trying his best. His wife Emily was 8 months pregnant, and the baby was due in just a few weeks. So Daniel had taken every shift he could get. Overnight shifts paid more, and right now, they needed every dollar. At 1:30 a.m., the store was empty. The fluorescent lights buzzed above the aisles, casting that sick pale glow across the floor. Daniel leaned against the counter and rubbed his eyes. He was exhausted. Emily had called him earlier, her voice soft and worried. "Promise me you'll come home early tomorrow," she had said. Daniel smiled at the memory. "I promise." After this week, he rested a hand on the ultrasound picture, taped to the register. His son, just a few more weeks. Then, life would finally feel normal. That's when the doorbell chimed. Daniel looked up. A man had just walked inside, but something about him felt wrong. The man looked pale, almost gray under the fluorescent lights. His clothes were dirty, like he had been walking through mud, and he smelled like wet earth. Daniel forced a polite smile. "Evening. Need anything?" The man didn't answer. He just stood there, perfectly still, staring. His eyes looked strange, cloudy, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Daniel felt a small knot of discomfort tighten in his chest. "Sir?" The man turned his head toward the aisles, then began walking, but not like a normal customer. He moved slowly, dragging his feet across the tile. Step like someone who had forgotten how walking worked. Daniel watched him disappear into the back aisle. Something about the way he moved made Daniel's skin crawl. A few minutes passed, too quiet. The store suddenly felt colder. Daniel glanced toward the aisle. "Sir, need help finding something?" No response, just silence. Then something fell in the back of the store. Daniel sighed and stepped out from behind the counter. "Sir, please don't." He stopped mid-sentence. The aisle was empty, completely empty. Daniel blinked. The shelves were untouched. Nothing had fallen. No customer. Nothing. His stomach twisted. He walked quickly back to the counter. Maybe the guy had walked out without him noticing. It happened sometimes. Still, he checked the door, locked from the inside. Daniel frowned. Then the doorbell rang again. Daniel turned around quickly, but the door never opened. No one stood there. The bell had rung by itself. A cold sensation crawled across his back. The store suddenly felt wrong. The lights flickered once. Daniel looked up at the security monitor above the register. 4 camera feeds. Everything looked normal. Until he noticed 2. Camera 3. The back aisle. Daniel leaned closer. There, standing at the end of the aisle, was the man. But Daniel knew something impossible, because Daniel was staring directly at that aisle from the counter, and it was empty. Yet, on the monitor, the man stood there, perfectly still, watching the bus. Camera. Daniel felt his throat tighten. His hands began to shake. The man slowly tilted his head, and then he smiled. Daniel spun around toward the aisle. Still empty. He looked back at the monitor. The man was now closer to the camera. Much closer. Daniel whispered to himself. No, no, no. The man leaned forward into the camera. His mouth opened, but the jaw stretched too far, farther than any human mouth should. Then, the camera feed cut to static. Daniel grabbed the phone. His hands trembled as he dialed. Emily, she answered sleepily. Danny, everything okay? Hearing her voice almost broke him. I think someone's in the store. You sound scared. Daniel looked around. The store was silent again. Too silent. I need to hear your voice for a minute. Emily's tone softened. Baby kicked again tonight. I think he misses you. Daniel felt his chest ache. I'll be home soon. I promise, he meant. It, more than anything. That's when the freezer door opened. Daniel turned slowly. The large walk-in freezer at the back of the store was wide open. Cold air spilled into the aisle. Emily's voice. Daniel. Emily's. Daniel. 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 Emily's. Crackled through the phone. What was that? Daniel couldn't speak, because inside the freezer, he saw muddy footprints leading deeper inside, and standing there in the cold mist was the man, except now he looked worse, much worse. His skin hung loosely, like something had been wearing him. His eyes were completely black. Daniel whispered, Sir, you need to leave. The man didn't move. Instead, he spoke, but the voice that came out didn't sound human. It sounded like several voices speaking at once. We've been waiting. Daniel's heart slammed against his ribs. Waiting for what? The thing smiled wider. For you. The lights shut off. The entire store plunged into darkness. Emily's voice screamed through the phone. Daniel? Ah? Then something moved in the dark. Fast. Too fast. Daniel heard footsteps rushing toward him. He ran. The phone fell from his hand as he sprinted toward the front door. Behind him, something crawled across the ceiling. He could hear its nails scraping across the metal lights. Closer, closer. He reached the door, unlocked it, and burst outside into the freezing night air. He ran across the empty parking lot. The forest around the station swayed in the wind. Daniel looked back. The store lights flickered on again, through the glass. And he saw something inside. Something tall, too tall, standing behind the counter, watching him. Then, the thing slowly lifted Daniel's phone and pressed it to its ear. Emily's voice echoed faintly from inside the building. Daniel, are you there? The thing smiled. Then the store lights went dark again. Police arrived the next morning. They found the gas station empty. The security cameras had stopped recording at 2:17 a.m. Daniel Harris was never found. But one camera had captured something strange. Camera 1, the one facing the counter, at 2:18 a.m. The footage shows the store completely empty. Then, slowly, the freezer door opens, and Daniel walks out. Except something about him isn't right. His body moves strangely. His head tilts too far to the side, and his smile stretches far wider than a human face should allow. He walks behind the counter, looks directly into the camera, and whispers, "Next customer, please." 2 weeks later, Emily Harris gave birth to a baby boy, but the nurse said something strange happened during delivery. When the newborn first opened his eyes, they weren't crying, they weren't blinking, they were just staring, watching, exactly like someone waiting.